I think we're about ready to start. The room has gotten quiet, so I guess I better start talking. And hopefully we'll have some fun, and this will be interesting. It's getting on in the afternoon, so I feel the need to be a little bit entertaining, so bear with me on that. I'll do my best. We're going to talk about the future of customer service through the lens of the effortless experience. I've spent about 20 years of my career in leading different service organizations, some as large as 600. I wish I had had this material on effortless experience 15 years ago. It would have changed an awful lot of things that I had tried to do. So hopefully you'll get something out of this today. Just need to learn how to use a clicker. So enough of that. So I'm with Traction. Traction's great. We're done with that slide. You're a good crowd. I like you. Okay. Effortless experience. This is, if you don't take anything else away from this, please go look at this stuff. I think it's amazing. I think it can help any business or organization. It actually was put out by the I think it's this Chicago Executive Board. There's lots of great resources online, some great tools. If you want, you can engage them into a whole consulting service, but I really don't think you need to, given how much they've put out there. The book itself is an easy read. And this has been based on a tremendous amount of research. This is not just a few anecdotal kind of things. They've done all this survey work. They've probably got 2 or 3 million data points that has gone into their findings. So there's a lot of stuff behind this. I think it makes an awful lot of just straight common sense if you think about it. And I'll just give you a little story. I used to have to fly a lot. I was Air Canada Super Elite for a number of years. And one time a flight got canceled. And so I used my handy dandy concierge service to just phone in. And in about 5 minutes, I was on another flight. Meanwhile, the dozens and dozens of other folks were lining up behind one agent to eventually sometime, hopefully that day, to get rebooked onto another flight. So 15 years ago, people would call that a wow experience and try to make a raving fans and do this over-the-top stuff. When I think about it, all it really was an effortless experience on my part. It was just simple. I just phoned a number. They helped me right away. I was on my way. And so I think if you look in your organizations for what you're doing in terms of wow experience, I believe an awful lot of it will come back to you're just making things more effortless for your customers. And so how do you start to not think so much about a wow experience, but just across the board, can we make things more effortless through our tools, through our agents, and some amazing things will happen. Such as you will grow loyalty, but in the way that these folks talk about it. And it has to do with basically what really counts. And that is, am I going to get more revenue from this customer? Am I going to get more wallet share? Are they going to be more willing to refer? So we're not just talking about a happy customer. We're not talking about a net promoter score, but we're talking about stuff that really makes a difference in terms of running the business day to day, year to year. So some of the things that they found, which I found very interesting. So delighting customers in your service channel doesn't pay. And the reason is that a lot of times you can't afford it and it doesn't scale. You can't necessarily give everybody a wow experience. And so what ends up happening is the customer service channel often ends up driving disloyalty because it is a lot of effort to get something done sometimes, depending on how you run your business. However, if you can drive down the effort required by customers, that translates into them becoming more loyal. So there is a solution here. Customer satisfaction does not predict the loyalty as we talk about it. It doesn't mean that satisfied customers don't rebuy or anything like that, but it's just not the predictor that you think it would be. You'll have customers that hate you and they'll rebuy from you because it just costs too much money to go to something else. And you'll have customers that love you, but they have no intention of buying from you again. So you can't just use that. and that's part of the point of what this stuff is all about, but you can track the effort that it takes for a customer to work with you, and that is a very good predictor for the possibility of rebuy, expanded buy, or referrals, and positive word of mouth versus negative word of mouth. We've had a traditional misunderstanding of this, mainly because of all the great stories that have been out there. One that I kind of grew up with was Nordstrom's down in the United States, the story of a guy bringing back a set of snow tires and getting them returned. And Nordstrom's doesn't sell tires, right? Hard to stay in business with that kind of model. I think that's partly what happened to Eaton's, quite frankly. I'm old enough to know that. So, and we just underestimate the value of just regular good service. So what this graph is trying to point out is that if you go all the way over to the end and you're giving wow experience, we think it really, really has a great payback. But in fact, the kind of return levels off. And if you're just giving consistently solid, lower effort customer experiences, you're going to get the best return on that. And so that's what this research is about and what we're going to talk some more about. Just some more data points. I know you can read. So what drives disloyalty? A lot of it, the simplest way to think about it is, are you easy to do business with, or do you kind of hassle your customers? And this can show up in a lot of different ways. One experience I had recently was, I've got one of those SO little fob things that you just kind of, point at the pump and bingo, you're in. You don't have to get out your credit card and everything. But of course, I guess the expiry date went on the card, and I had to go online, which was no problem, and update my card for the fob. No problem. Then it bounces back and says, oh, sorry, you have to call our customer service department about this. Okay, let's call them. Now, I don't do this kind of personal stuff while I'm at work. So it wasn't 9 to 5. Monday through Friday, it was on the weekend. Well, guess when their customer service department is open? Exactly when I'm not available for them, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So, it was something that could have been a much easier experience, but they just didn't engineer it well. And I still have not bothered to make that phone call. It's every time I buy gas, it's just, darn, those guys are just making this harder for me. So it's that hassle factor. Repeat contacts. I have to go from one channel to another. I had to go from the web to the phone. Getting transferred, repeating information. I'm sure we've all had this kind of stuff come up. And so how can we leverage a tool like Service Cloud and Salesforce to help eliminate some of this? We're going to use an example from Yellow Pages because they've been going through a tremendous transformation from the book to being digital. And we've been lucky enough to be able to partner with them on that, and so we'll talk about some of this. So we think of it in terms of, I didn't invent this, I'm borrowing it, the 4 pillars. So we're going to talk about channel flexibility. When I speak of channel, it's how does your customer contact you? Email, web, phone, etc. How can we try to anticipate what the customer might need next, so that they don't even have to call us up or contact us again. We solved it ahead of time for them. There's another component to this that technology can supplement, but it's about training their agents so that they know how to talk and act with the customer, so the customer just comes away thinking, that was easy. So I had another experience, I remember all these experiences, right? I'd been on a trip, but I did not buy that thing down in Los Angeles. So get on the phone to the bank, and I got on to an agent, and it was great because this agent knew how to handle me with efficiency, and just was like bang, bang, bang. They could make a decision. They knew what I probably needed. They gave me some choice. They did all the right things. So when I hung up the phone, instead of kind of going, oh God, that was so frustrating, and it wasn't even my fault. It was like, wow, that was easy, you know. I should tell them the amounts were more next time. It was so easy to, it was a fraud situation, right? So anyway, there's lots of things that we'll talk about there. And then the last one is pushing things out to the frontline people who are actually your interface. It's your frontline people that are actually creating your experience brand. I don't know if there's any marketing people in the room, but I personally don't believe it's through advertising and images on the web. It's actually the interaction with your product or your people that ultimately creates the brand. So channel flexibility. One way to think of this is no matter what channel a customer contacts me in, can they stay in that channel in order to get their issue resolved? So if I email you, can I work all the way through email till I get it done? If I phone you, can I get it done on that call? If I tweet something, can I actually get a response and get it resolved in Twitter? So that's the concept there, and that would be one end of the continuum, where you really work to have everything set up so that if you choose a channel, we will work with you in that channel that you chose, because hopefully that means it's less effort for you. That's why you chose that channel. But it's also along a continuum, and I think it also is important to be able to switch channels where it makes sense for the customer in order to service them better. So I think, for example, live chat, and especially the way Salesforce is implemented, is fantastic in certain situations. It can be the worst way to have a long conversation, right? Typing is not the way to have a conversation. So it might be a great way to quickly start something and then shift it to a more appropriate channel. And you want to be able to do that. It's just, you know, how many times it's been just pick up the phone, call that customer, let's have a conversation and get this resolved. So, you know, some people talk about you got to stay in channel, the one the customer picked, and I just think you need the flexibility to cross channels, but in a way that makes it easy for both the agent and the customer. Yeah, so you don't want to have to go trolling through another agent's inbox because now you want to phone this customer back. And believe me, we've worked with customers like that. And what the research found was that the vast majority of customers, if you make it easy for them, you don't have to give them as many choices. At the end of the day, I mean, how many people here have waited, you know, at least 30 minutes or more to get into a restaurant that they really liked, right? And you're okay with that, right? So, yeah, so work on the ease part, and it'll really take you a long way. So, Salesforce in particular, I hope this isn't a repeat. Email to case. Email to case is very, very easy. You know, people have email everywhere. It's ubiquitous. The only trouble with it from a service standpoint is you just get a blob of data, right? It's the email. And you don't have any way of kind of classifying that, or very little ways of classifying that information so that you can route it to the right agent and have all the information you need so that you can start working it right away. So email is very easy, but sometimes it's not the most efficient. Social to case, there's an update here. You can do Facebook and Twitter kind of right out of the box with Service Cloud as of spring 15. So you can go social to case as well. The chat feature, live agent, phone with connections to your phone system, and now there's some folks out there that, you know, basically if you don't even want a phone system, you don't have to have one. You just tell them your phone numbers, they'll connect it to their stuff in the cloud, that gets routed back to the handset, and everything else is taken care of. It's built completely on top of Salesforce. It's phenomenal. And then community, and I've put that separately and call it a resolution center, because community really should be about how can I resolve my own cases. And I want to talk about, I've got it in another place, self-resolution instead of call deflection, right? If you want to deflect calls, just turn off your phone lines. You know, they'll all be deflected. Yes. Sorry? Texting, fair enough, okay. Very good. Yes, and texting, you know, there's a segment for that, absolutely. And I've installed stuff from the App Exchange. Maybe you have a solution that seamlessly connects with Salesforce as another channel. It could be a great channel for machine to case as well. So thank you for that. Right? So I would urge you to stop thinking about call deflection and start thinking about self-resolution. Right? Because that's what your customer really wants. They just want it. They're happy if they can resolve something themselves. They're not going to be happy if you're just pushing them around, you know, don't call me, even though I tell you how much we love our customers. On the web side, Salesforce gives you a lot of options. You can start off very simply with web to case. Very, very simple kind of form generation. You just paste it in on some web pages. And the key here is that, you know, if you have multiple products, for example, that you support, you can have a different web form for each product. That then can be used to auto-route to your agents based on their skills. You can pre-populate that web form based on which page it came off of with information. You can ask customers to give you information. And the value of that over an email is that, okay, I can start working on this case right away as soon as it comes in. So web forms are really, really easy to implement. You can start putting your knowledge base articles out through the website. The licensing on that is very, very competitive, let's put it that way, if not free. And then you can go out to a full-fledged community. Now, you want to get your stuff in order in-house, I believe, before you really put a big effort into communities. But with the way the product has been evolving, so that a lot better branding, a lot easier to build, a much more functional, easy-to-use website with the templates, it's really been neat to see the evolution there. And for any of you that are, is everybody here who's not familiar with communities? Let me just, a little bit. So, okay. The best way to think of communities is that you take one of your customers, you fiddle with Salesforce a little bit, and you make them a Salesforce user. So your customers now become a Salesforce user, and the simplest out-of-the-box thing that you can do almost in minutes, if you're not too worried about branding, is this: you just go, I've got these people that are now community users, I want them to see these 3 things, and they see it just like any other user of Salesforce. It's just limited because of their profile. So it doesn't have to be this big, complex kind of implementation. It can be very, very straightforward. Usually the thing that comes in the way the most is the branding, and Salesforce has really tried to address that with the templates that they now ship out of the box. We thought we had more time to give you a live demonstration of this, but we don't. So we're going to give you some screenshots. So channel flexibility. So one of the things that Yellow Pages has done already is if you go to their website, there's all these different things you can pick that relate to the problem you want to get resolved. And what can end up happening is that you'll come in through one of something like about 85 different inbound email addresses. Those email addresses are all set up in Salesforce so that when it comes in, we know more about that case because we know the address that it came from. And that just gives us a leg up versus just support@ypg.com. So that's just one way to start thinking about it. And they've needed that. But no matter how many different channels you have, the great thing about Salesforce, in my mind, is that it comes in and then the agent has just one interface, one thing to look at. They're not looking at inboxes. They're not going over to, the Facebook page or whatever. They're just one place. All the details are there. This is a bit of a snapshot of the Service Cloud console. We've got the main detail page over on this side. These are custom console components, and right now we're showing the contact details. So without going anywhere, you can see more details about the contact. If you just clicked on the account tab, you'd instantly see more details about the account. So the thing here is that it makes it very easy for the agent to have this information at their fingertips. And when it's easy, they're not literally putting as much cognitive effort into finding out things, so they can put that cognitive effort into how they're talking to your customer. Their pacing, their tone, the words they're using. They can be thinking about what's next instead of scrambling to find stuff. And I don't think people appreciate that enough, actually, in terms of doing customer service and trying to re-engineer the experience. You know, make it easy for the agents. Most of the agents I've always met, you know, they actually really want to do a good job. And then we put these tools in front of them, and it's like unbelievable. I won't mention the telephone directory company whose agent got excited when they were telling me that they could go up into the URL and go across it and find an 8-digit number and copy that number out and go over to another application on their computer and paste that in to look up something. They thought this was like phenomenal, right? And it was like, my goodness, what people will do to just get their job done. So channel flexibility, you've got all the channels in the world in Salesforce. They can all come in and give you kind of one presentation, so you can give your customers lots of choice. I'm going to start talking a little faster, I think. I got a little thing telling me to go. Next issue, avoidance. Okay, the big point here is that you want to work with what you have. I mean, you know, this could get really, really fancy, but I think you can do the basics with this right out of the gate. You know, just go talk to your agents. These folks know what's going on every day, and I'm sure that the ones that have got a bit of experience can say, yeah, you know, they'll probably call in 3 days with this next issue. So that would be the first thing I would do, is just go talk to them, right? And then build that into your training. You want to be able to classify your cases really well. We always work through a classification hierarchy that we set up with our customers so that you can then, you know, relate one kind of case to a possible follow-up case much more easily. Salesforce has a lot of great stuff in terms of Salesforce knowledge. They've been adding more and more to this with each release. And so in using that, you should be able to create articles. And in those articles, you know, this is how you solve this problem. And this could be the next problem that comes up. You need to work with the customer on that. So you want to start thinking about, can we add what the next issue might be to the K-base articles for a current issue, and start thinking of it like that. They also have some great reporting that if any of you are using Knowledge and you have not already gone to the App Exchange and downloaded and installed the Knowledge dashboard, it's free, it's easy, takes 5 minutes, and you get all the stuff you know, right away. I would encourage you to do that. So what we've done here, again, this is a snippet, how you classify the case. A couple of things, there's 2 different screens here I put on the same page. So what we're doing with YPG, because they have a whole bunch of stuff in their wiki on processes, and they didn't want to kind of try to put that all into Knowledge to go live right away, is that we basically have a simple table that says if you have a certain kind of case, these are the wiki articles that you will need to look at. And so that as soon as you put in the stuff for what kind of case it is, this stuff automatically shows up. The agent doesn't have to go searching. They don't have to think about it. It's just right there. And what this means is a new agent is going to ramp a lot faster, and all agents will have information on edge cases that they may not kind of remember because they don't get them all the time. This other screenshot is basically just showing you that you can do reports on how often articles are being viewed and how they're being rated. So you can start looking at what are my most used articles, take the ones that are most used, and think about what might happen next. Right? So there's ways that you can start tackling this next issue avoidance without going into some big consulting project. And I would urge you to do that. Another nice dashboard for the Knowledge stuff. Get it, it's free. Okay, So you got all this stuff, you got the right channels, you're trying to do next issue avoidance. One of the things my mom always told us was it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And that really does apply here for creating the sense in a customer that the experience I just went through was effortless. Just how you present things, how you pace it, the words you use can make a big difference to the customer. Giving them choice, giving people a sense of control will make them feel that it was actually less of an effort. They weren't fighting things because they had some control and they could make choice. So those are things. We're going to post this for customers, right? Somebody say yes. So yes, good. So you'll be able to get this stuff, right? If you're taking notes and that kind of thing. But really good points to remember. What we're doing here is, again, at YPG, depending on how you, so that this words in the form of emails and other communication are kind of one of the ways that we communicate with customers the most. And so that's going to be one of the ways that we build the brand experience. Recently, I got an email from a financial institution because the representative changed, and it struck me for two things. So I get this letter, and they talk about, we're sure you appreciate honesty, integrity, and a couple other kind of things. It was like, you're an investment company. I don't know why we're talking about honesty and integrity here, right? Why don't we talk about returns, right? And then I noticed that it was, to dear client, right? So that's how important I was to them, right? So, so how you word things makes a difference. So with YPG, they have over 85 email templates they have to use because of all the different kinds of service tasks that their agents do. So again, depending on how you classify the case, literally you click a button and we find the right email template for that case. We present it all filled in, and if you want, you can add a few more words. Otherwise, you just hit send. So basically 2 clicks and you've got the right email template out of dozens, and it's sent off to the customer. Again, it just makes it much easier for the agent to get that proper wording and tone off to the customer. More on knowledge base, you can also do the wording and text. So with Live Agent, this little screen on this side, basically there's this quick text stuff so that if you have standard phrasing that you want your agents to use instead of, hey, what's happening? You can put that in there with your quick text. And I'll just have to skip that one for now. Now, you can take this as far as really complex situations. We've worked with one company where they have over 250 different discrete service tasks that their agents have to perform. And some of those tasks are actually 10 or 11 steps long. So there's a lot of stuff to train agents up on. So what we've created is what we call planned steps. And basically, depending on how the case is classified, we present to the agents the steps that they have to follow. And then basically, as they're working through, they set the indicators. They know what they have to do next. They can talk confidently to the customer about that. And guess what? If they're sick one day or they've gone on vacation, anybody opening the case can see where this left off and what we have to do next. So again, it just kind of frees up the brain for the agent, and it should make the customer experience that much better. So lastly, frontline control. I'm a big believer in giving away the business. I think you should hire the right people, you should give them good training, and then delegate and trust. It's just really a way to leverage stuff, and I think you get more out of people. It doesn't mean that you just kind of walk out and not pay attention to anything. Yes, you have to monitor, and you look for exceptions, and then you go in and deal with exceptions, usually on a coaching kind of basis. And we're saying here is reward on the experience, not just on volume. If you count volume, you'll get volume. I had an agent in England. I found out one time that they just really, really understood that the number of calls per day was so important that they once in a while would tell a customer to please hang up, call back, I'll take you right away, and then I'll have 2 calls instead of 1 long call, right? It was like, okay, I failed. Somehow I did not communicate properly if she felt that's what they needed to do. So what we have with YPG, this is kind of a multiple screen, but the column here is a list of different skills. And those different skills are made up of abilities that are shown along the bottom. So a skill can have multiple abilities, like what province am I covering, what language am I covering, what customer level am I covering, and what type of case am I covering. So is this a billing issue? Is this a claims issue? Is it a priority customer? That kind of thing. We create all these combinations and skills, and then that center box is for that particular agent. They have some primary skills and they have some secondary skills. So when the agent basically hits a little button that says get next, the system just goes, okay, let's look at all cases, finds the ones that are primary skill based for this person. We have a priority ranking system. They get the highest priority next case that's based on their skills. So that they're going to be, first of all, they're not getting a case and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to handle this, right? It's going to be really hard for them to provide a great customer experience because they're just going to be nervous. So the cases they can do best, that's the one they work on. And then you have reporting. And we love to put icons on the reports. So basically you just go, is there any red? You know, green is good, red is bad. Let's check out the red and see what we have to do. And so you can kind of give away the business, give your frontline people control, but you can still monitor and follow up on exceptions and things like that. You know, most of the time you'll probably find it's how you've organized your business, not just how that agent is working. On the agent screen, there's lots of things to indicate, you know, the color coding. This has got the entitlements and milestones hooked up so that right away at the bottom, the agent can see how they're tracking, how much time they have left. Again, this visual stuff can be kind of understood in like half a second because that's how our brains are organized. You know, we're image oriented, not text oriented. And so very, very quickly, the agents just kind of boom, this is where this case is at, let's get going, because of the color coding and that kind of thing. So just, I think lastly on this, so what the kind of the future of support, I believe YPG is really working at. So they've taken case and they've rolled it out across over 800 individuals across the company, not just customer service, right? So this stuff is all over the place in the company. Basically anybody can open a case, and depending on the selections you make, it then goes to the appropriate department. So if a sales rep is out in a customer's office and the customer says something, it's like, okay, let's just open up a case right now. We'll get it to the right person. They hit send on their tablet or whatever, and boom, it's in the queue, and the agent's going to hit get next. It's going to go to the right agent, and it can be dealt with, you know, as efficiently and as quickly as possible. There's none of this, well, when I get back, I'll tell somebody, and hopefully we'll get a case going. So those are the 4 points we talked about today. And now I'll ask if there's any questions. Thank you for putting up with the fire hose. Yes?
So how much of the stuff that you showed us is out of the box and how much is custom objects?
Okay, out of the box or custom objects. Can I qualify that by custom development? Is that fair enough, right? So the icons, for example, are, you know, just basic images and some formula fields. So not heavy developer work, right? So that's pretty straightforward. The get next is a trigger, but it's all driven by the custom objects of the skills and abilities. And really the heavy lifting is you figuring out what that matrix is. And then there's just a bit of data entry. And for us, the way we've developed it is now we can kind of basically easily install that. It's not a full package, but easily install that going forward. Email to case, web to case, live chat, that's all out of the box, right? So I would say, especially in YPG's case, there was a real pushback on all custom development because they needed to go live as quickly as possible. So a lot of this was done with a minimal amount of effort. That by far the biggest effort was, how do we get 800 people to agree on stuff, right? So I hope that answers that for you. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Yes.
So in an organization that uses Salesforce as its CRM,
Yes.
it seems to make a lot of sense to use the Service Cloud for the service aspect of the business.
Sure.
In a situation where a company either doesn't have a CRM or doesn't envision themselves going full whole hog.
Right.
At that point, is it compelling to use Service Cloud on its own compared to, say, for example, some of the tools you can get with the call center system?
Right. Okay, great question. So the question was, I'm not using Salesforce as a CRM. I got my phone system guys telling me you should go with us for all this case management stuff. So why should I use Service Cloud, right? Okay, I've been there. So, okay, here's how I think about it, is you've got your inbound interaction management systems that basically, I believe, originated out of your phone systems, your ACD, IVR, screen popping, right? So that channel started, and they go, how do we grow our business? Well, why don't we start doing email? Why don't we start doing live chat? Why don't we start doing web stuff, right? And we'll queue it all up, and we will do push, so your agents never have a spare moment, and they're not working, and any of that stuff, right? So you can either try to grow Salesforce inside of their stuff, because that's what's going to end up happening, right? Or you have to make, and this is a strategic decision, that we're actually not going to try to grow that kind of inbound delivery into a CRM and everything else, and we're going to bite the bullet, and we're going to start investing in a platform like Salesforce, because other than, actually, if you go with a company like New Voice Media, you can literally kind of get rid of your phone system, and all your inbound channels can still be managed if you want by that queuing, but it's all built on top of Salesforce. So really, other than phone, you've got all your inbound channels that can be well managed and controlled by Salesforce. And so my belief is that the long-term play is that you want to develop it in Salesforce because of the flexibility of the platform, where Salesforce is going, the amount of people that are out in the marketplace now that you can hire to do administration, all that kind of stuff, versus working, quite frankly, with what will be more of a niche player, whatever your phone system is. And so it'll be harder to get people that know how to do that technology and stuff like that. But it is a strategic kind of battle, right? Yes.
Yeah, my company started with us for about a year and a half.
Uh-huh. Yep.
We're adding Service Cloud, right? What is your recommendations in terms of make sure the foundation is there? What type of foundation needs to be there before we move into Service Cloud? I mean, I manage a call center. It's not a big call center compared to what you implement.
Sure.
Right? But I really like the telephone system that actually picks up the phone, the case, the contact, and create that case. I mean, that milliseconds helps my agent a great deal.
Good.
Our company is not really driving volumes to experience, customer experience.
Right.
So the question is that implementation side, what is needed, what is the foundation needs to be there before I move to Service Cloud?
Okay, so what would be the foundation to have ready before you move to Service Cloud? And so it's going to be, none of this, I don't believe in black and white stuff. I believe in continuums, right? So along this continuum of, so first of all, you should have your account and contact information pretty well organized. Otherwise, who do I attach to a case, right? So do your homework on your accounts and contacts. Try to have that cleaned up, right? If you want to use knowledge, you're going to have to make sure that you've got some knowledge stuff to put in, so is that material cleaned up? You're going to have to define how you want to classify cases. This is often like wrap-up codes on the phone side. Get that model figured out first, so the moment you start putting in cases, you're classifying them for metrics and all that kind of stuff. So those would be things that I would look at immediately. And then the thing is with Salesforce, I believe once you have the platform, we believe in kind of a crawl, walk, run model. And so I think that once you're on it, you know, it's actually going to help you get the things that you need as you go along. And so that's why I think of it as a continuum, right? Yeah. But certainly accounts and contacts are foundational. Other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.